Good afternoon, everybody, and here we are with my good friend and colleague Martin McGill from Sligo in the west of Ireland. Afternoon, Martin. How are you?
I'm very good, Justin. Thank you, and hi to everybody.
Yeah. So we were just talking before we came on. Yeah, quite strange times. I think the last time I sort of spoke to you on the before lockdown last year about this end of January, February. I think you were just coming back from Pakistan, or you were just there. So you usually do quite a lot of travel, which has been curtailed.
Absolutely, yeah. And
Yes.
some people thought that I would be really upset about that, that how was I going to cope without this travel? But to be honest, it's actually been fine. I actually really enjoyed not traveling.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. We were just coming back. We actually cut our trip to Pakistan short just by a few days because that's when really the pandemic was announced and lots of
Yes.
airlines were starting to ban flights from certain countries. And we had kind of already got to
We
the
can
point.
still fly into Ireland from anywhere in the world. That's a year later. So I mean, let's
Yes.
not let's not start going down that line. I mean, Ireland and the UK still haven't locked down, like New Zealand or somewhere else did about 10 months ago. Wonder why that's why we're not having any.
Well, that could take us to a whole discussion around feminine leadership. And when you look at New Zealand, where the prime minister there did lock down the country, and maybe there's some
Bit choppy. You see it sort of dropping out a little bit. You still there, Martin? I'm sure we'll come back to this now in a second. I'll just do a little bit of filling because he seems to have frozen. Maybe it's me. I don't know. And he's not still there. Okay. Hello. Let me see whether we can get him back. Okay. He seems to have dropped off, but we'll keep going. I'm sure I'm sure the technology in Sligo will kick in a second. That's the west of Ireland, slightly more rural than where than where I am. He's still not back again. Let me see. And hopefully he'll be back again in a second. So what we were talking about was that Martin was working out. We're helping to set up one of the courses in the universities out there in Pakistan. So and I'm not too sure. I think he'd been out there a couple of times. So we shall see. I'll stay keep filling. I can see he's trying to open the email again. So whether that's not happening. So if anybody's got any questions for myself or for Martin, talk a little bit about biomechanics this afternoon, orthotics, new advances in orthotics, 3D scanning and printing, and podiatry as a whole. And hopefully he'll be signing back in now in a second. I'll just keep filling. So here he comes back now.
Okay, guys have switched technology from an iPad to an iPhone. Something to do with Wi-Fi there, I think.
You'll have laptops and stuff. No? Okay, we were just saying. Yeah,
okay,
so
can you hear me?
Yeah, Andy, you're back on again. Oh, good. So when I'd spoken to you when you were out in Pakistan.
Okay, sorry about that.
That's okay. When you've been out in Pakistan, that hadn't been the first time that you've been out there, had it?
No, the trip to Pakistan, that was probably my third time to Pakistan, and the initial concept was to look at simply setting up a podiatric clinic in Pakistan to provide MSK services to the local population in Islamabad.
Okay.
And I was introduced to Pakistan by a girl called Aisha Wajahat. And when I was there, it became very clear that setting up one clinic was a simple solution to providing care to, well, really the elites. And what really Pakistan needed, and other countries in that area, was podiatric education. So how do you train the trainer? And that sort of became a concept. When I came back, I kind of thought, well, okay, go and set up a clinic. Yes, you could have a successful clinic, but really, how does that benefit the nation? And then we started looking at the demographics and looking at what's happening in terms of foot health in Pakistan. And we suddenly found out that Pakistan has one of the highest rates of amputation of the foot and ankle.
Indian subcontinent, I mean, Pakistan and India, I mean, it's huge. I mean, I've looked at the figures before. It's like, 20 times as much here as here in the West.
I mean, it was colossal, and the effect on families and people's livelihoods and so on was just colossal. So that made us really start thinking, right, well, okay, think of how we were educated. What did that look like? Could we take that model and bring it to somewhere like Pakistan? And that's been what we've been pursuing, and trying to look at how we would link to a university in Islamabad. How we link to a teaching hospital, and then how would we actually facilitate that? Of course, now with COVID and this pandemic, it's kind of pushed everything back.
Yes.
But we're still pursuing that. And what I've attempted to do is to create a team of people around me who have better skills than I have within the field of education. So, Prof. Ashford, who was the dean of the college, the Royal College of in Scotland, he's come along and helped, and there's other people involved, and we're just trying to think, right, how do we get this off the ground? How do we bring podiatric medicine to Pakistan? And part of that journey, Justin, has been interesting in that we've also met World Health Organization officials from other countries in the region. So exactly as you said, the entire area does not have podiatric medicine, and it has a diabetic major problem.
Yeah.
So we're exploring that.
Statistics are frightening, but of course, I mean, this isn't the first time that you've been involved in education at different levels. Obviously, with your different roles over the years, and with education then through sort of with Firefly and the orthotics lab. So you've been sort of pushing that quite a lot.
Yeah, I think that I was very fortunate as a student and early in my sort of postgraduate career to have been influenced by some great podiatrists, and that sharing of ideas, concepts. Maybe not all, but you learn from all these scenarios. So it's always been a part of, I suppose, my remit in work is to share what I have with others and to learn from every podiatrist. And that's led on to, in terms of Firefly, a big part of what we do is MSK education. And we work with podiatrists to help them translate what it is they want to do with orthotic therapy or exercise prescription or whatever it is, footwear advice. How does that all come together to create some sort of offloading regime,
Yeah. Because an orthotic is, at the moment, did you say it's a load modifier now? Is that what it does?
Yeah, well, that's essentially what I think it really does. It modifies load, yeah.
So how does it modify load then?
Well, I suppose what you're looking at is all of the evidence that people are looking at in terms of the scientific community originally would have started in, well, how are we altering the kinematics?
Yeah.
And of course, they couldn't really find that much change in the angle of the calcaneum or whatever, or what's happening to the tibia position in gait, or, So what they started to look at was, well, what's happening to load? And they knew in the early days of, rootweed in Iran and so on, that they were putting these things into people's shoes and people were getting better, but they just couldn't work out why. And really, that's been the history of orthotic therapy. And we don't really know when.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
They're going to come back in for the review and everything's going to be good.
Is there something happening at a proprioceptive level? Is there something happening? There's all sorts of things going on that we still don't know, and then the evidence moved to the study of kinetics and the loading, and how do you measure the change of a load